Well, good afternoon. Welcome to the Midday News on Rajya Sabha TV. I'm Ashwarya with you. It is 1 o'clock and let's just get you all the developing news stories at the top of this hour. Let us start with the headlines. On day 2 of Rajya dialogue, Russia pitches for reforms in United Nations, backs India for permanent Security Council seat. Prime Minister Modi to hold talks with the visiting foreign ministers. Army Chief General Naramne says our forces will continue zero tolerance towards terrorism. Also calls scrapping of Article 370 a historic step. On 72nd Army Day, President Kovind, Vice President Naidu greet forces. Avalanches and landslides in Himalayan region claim 12 lives, including 6 soldiers in Jammu and Kashmir. 4 people killed in Himachal Pradesh. Prime Minister Modi praises Army's relief and rescue operations. Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu calls upon media to curb unhealthy trends that impact its credibility. In a video message on 50th anniversary of Tughlaq magazine, Prime Minister Modi says vested interests misleading people, causing unrest. And Rohit Sharma awarded ICC ODI Cricketer of 2019. Pat Cummins is the Test cricketer. Virat Kohli gets a Spirit of Cricket accolade. Ben Stokes wins the Garfield Sobers Trophy for the World Player of the Year. First up, all the updates from the day 2 of the 5th Rajya dialogue. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has hit out at the United States over the concept of the Indo-Pacific. He said it was initiated to disrupt the existing structure and contain China. Addressing the gathering at the Rajya dialogue, he said that an equitable democratic order should not be influenced by the use of brutal force. Lavrov also backed India and Brazil to be the permanent members of United Nations Security Council.
Especially in a situation when developing countries have grievances regarding the lack of progress on the reform of the Security Council. Since I mentioned the reform of the Security Council, I would say that the deficiency, the main and probably the only deficiency of the Security Council is under-representation of the developing countries. And we repeatedly reiterated our position that India and Brazil absolutely deserve to be on the Council together with an African candidate, and our position is that the purpose of the reform is to make sure that the developing countries have a better treatment in the central organ of the United Nations. The United Nations Charter is the anchor of any discussions which we are having.
And External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar said that India's way is not to be disruptive and it is more of a decider than an abstainer. Addressing the gathering at the Rajya dialogue today, Jaishankar referred to the tensions between the United States and Iran and said that they are two individualistic countries and what finally happens will depend on the players involved.
It's also not the India way to be self-centered, to be mercantilist. Therefore, it's important to be global, it's important to be law-abiding or rule-based, whichever way you like. By the way, I think of rules as something more than law, not as less than law, but that's my view. It's important to be consultative. So if you ask me, therefore, give me 4 or 5 sharp descriptions of what is the India way. I think the India way would be a country which brings its capacities to bear on the international system for global good, which is a net security provider, which is a contributor to connectivity, which is firm in dealing with challenges like terrorism, which has its values and practices, which addresses global issues like climate change. That would be one. Two, the India way now especially would be to be more of a decider or a shaper rather than an abstainer.
And Iran's Foreign Minister Javad Zarif also addressed the Raisina dialogue today. Let's listen in.
In Iraq, violating Iraqi sovereignty, they thought, as Secretary Pompeo tweeted, that people would be dancing in the streets of Tehran and Baghdad. Actually, he picked up a small gathering of a few and tweeted that we rid the region of a whatever he want to call him, and then people are dancing. That showed two things which are very dangerous, and when combined it becomes even more dangerous: ignorance and arrogance. And when you become an arrogant ignorant or an ignorant arrogant, it becomes a disaster, particularly if you have a lot of power. That has been fueling mayhem in the region. Now you've seen the reaction, not just in Iran. I was surprised to hear that in 430 Indian cities, 430 Indian cities, there were spontaneous demonstrations and meetings to commemorate General Soleimani.
And let's get all the updates. Our colleague Akhilesh Suman is now joining us for more on this story. A very good afternoon, Akhilesh. Akhilesh, as expected, the tensions between US and Iran were the key focus during the Raisina dialogue, and Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov also addressed the dialogue today, wherein he said that India should be one of the permanent members of the United Nations Security Council. What are the other takeaways from his address today?
Indeed, Lavrov was one of the major attractions in the morning session, and he was very clear about Iran. He said that sanctions over Iran will not work because it is not diplomacy. More you put sanctions, more non-diplomatic you will be. So he suggested that there should be a conversation the United Nations Security Council with GCC and OIC members together, so that they can try to find out some solutions. So he said that P5 members should join hands with OIC and JCC members to find a solution. So it was, I think, one of the pragmatic things that people thought he was making. But he was also critical of one of the things that is very popular nowadays, and that is Indo-Pacific. He said that renaming Asia-Pacific to Indo-Pacific is just one nation's articulation. Though US had the right to define, but it shows that the centrality of ASEAN is being left and something else is being in the center. So he suggested that such type of renominations does not augur well in the world. Though Sergei Lavrov in the end says that India and Russia are very specific partners. They are special privileged partners, and this partnership is going on very well. And when External Affairs Minister Jaishankar was speaking, he also spoke that many turbulence and many realignments have come in the world. But the only relationship that was very stable, and that relationship was between India and Russia, and it is still stable. So he felt proud over India-Russia relationship. So I can say that one of the major attractions of the morning session was this,
All right. Akhilesh, thank you so much for all those updates. There you keep tracking those developments from Raisina dialogue. We'll keep coming back to you. And earlier on the sidelines of the Raisina dialogue, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar and his Uzbekistani counterpart Abdulaziz Kamilov held wide-ranging talks on Tuesday, wherein they vowed to boost bilateral trade and investment and explore possibilities for a preferential trade agreement. S. Jaishankar also met with the Latvian Foreign Minister. And during his talks, both leaders deliberated on global issues, technology opportunities, and contemporary challenges. Later in the day, S. Jaishankar also met with the Foreign Minister of Czech Republic, and issues of mutual interest were discussed between the two leaders. On to some other news now. The 72nd Army Day is being celebrated across the country today. The Army showcased its military might and some of its state-of-the-art assets at the majestic Army Day parade. Army Chief General M. Naravane, Air Chief Marshal RKS Bhaduria, Navy Chief Admiral Karambir Singh and Chief of Defence Staff General Bipin Rawat were present at the occasion. And in his address at the Army Day function in the national capital, Army Chief General Naravane said that armed forces have a zero tolerance towards terrorism.
आतंक के प्रति हमारा पॉलिसी जीरो टॉलरेंस का है। आतंकवाद को बढ़ावा देने वाले देश के खिलाफ आतंक करने वालों को जवाब देने के लिए हमारे पास अनेक विकल्प हैं, जिनका इस्तेमाल करने में हम नहीं हिचकिचाएंगे। भविष्य में होने वाली युद्ध के स्वरूप पर भी है। 21वीं सदी के चुनौतियों का सामना करने के दिशा में इंटीग्रेटेड बैटल ग्रुप्स का निर्माण एक महत्वपूर्ण कदम है। हम नीश कैपेबिलिटीज जैसे कि स्पेस, साइबर, स्पेशल ऑपरेशंस और इलेक्ट्रॉनिक वॉरफेयर को बढ़ाने में भी पूरी कोशिश कर रहे हैं।
And earlier in the day, Chief of Defence Staff General Bipin Rawat, Army Chief and the Navy Chief as well as Air Force Chief paid tributes at the National War Memorial. Army Day is celebrated on 15th of January every year. The day marks a day to salute the valiant soldiers who sacrificed their lives to protect the country and its citizens. And President and Vice President of the country have tweeted and they have greeted the valiant men and women of the Indian Army on the occasion of 72nd Army Day today. In a tweet, President Ramnath Kovind said that Indian Army is nation's pride and the sentinels of liberty. He also said that the immense sacrifice of the Indian Army has secured the sovereignty, brought glory to the nation and protected the people of the country. In a Twitter message, Vice President Naidu also saluted the Army men and women for protecting our borders and ensuring the safety and security of the country. On to some other news now. Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu on Tuesday attended the 50th anniversary celebration of the Tamil magazine Tughlaq. And speaking on the occasion, the Vice President called upon the media fraternity to do some introspection and curb unhealthy trends that affect its credibility. Paying tribute to the founder of the magazine, Ko Ramaswamy, the Vice President said that he was a fearless journalist who always placed nation's interest before anything else. And recalling the resistance put up by him during the emergency, Naidu said that Ramaswamy always believed in journalistic freedom and never missed an opportunity to oppose any move to curtail journalistic freedom.
What we see today is a far cry from all that. The media is no longer neutral. These days, one can hardly get an objective picture of the current happenings or any development by reading one newspaper or watching one single news channel. I am of the firm opinion the news and views should not be combined. News should be separate. News must be news. And views must be views. The unhealthy trend of mixing news and views, slanting stories and providing disproportionate coverage to certain issues in line with the management's thinking has become the norm these days. Instead of giving complete information, information with confirmation is more than an ammunition. Instead of giving complete information in an unadulterated manner, a section of the media is deciding what the viewer should watch or the reader should read. Such a trend is not good for the fourth estate and Indian democracy in the long run. You give the news. Give side by side your views and leave the judgment to the people. You cannot give judgment. But we are seeing the trend different. I feel the time has come for the entire media fraternity to do a serious introspection and curb any unhealthy trend that affects its credibility.
Meanwhile, in related news, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said that India was developing at a rapid pace and things that were seen as impossible were becoming a reality. but vested interests are trying to mislead the nation and cause unrest. In his video address aired at an event held by a Tamil magazine in Chennai, Prime Minister Modi said that his government's policy initiatives have helped further economic and social integration of the country.
Our government has taken up the mission to solve problems persisting for decades. Our decisions have helped further India's economic and social integration. Today, as India is developing at a rapid pace and things that were seen as impossible are becoming a reality, the same vested interest group is unable to digest the changes. They are trying their level best to mislead, confuse, and cause unrest. In such times, the responsibility of a magazine like Tughlaq increased to keep the people of India aware, just as Cho would have done.
And now all the news on the upcoming Delhi Assembly elections. The process for filing of nominations for the Delhi elections has started on Tuesday, and candidates can file their nominations until 21st of this month for the elections that will be held on the 8th of February. The scrutiny of nominations will take place on 22nd of January, and the last date for the withdrawal of nominations will be 24th of this month. Over 1 crore 47 lakh voters will vote on 8th of February for the 70-member assembly elections. The counting of votes will take place on 11th of February. The elections will see a three-cornered contest involving the ruling Aam Aadmi Party, the BJP and the Congress. And the Aam Aadmi Party yesterday released a list of 70 candidates for the Delhi Assembly polls. The party has fielded Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal from the New Delhi Assembly seat and his deputy Manish Sisodia from the Patparganj seat. 15 sitting MLAs have been replaced in the list. Atishi Mehrana will contest from Kalkaji, while Raghav Chadda will contest from Rajendra Nagar.
सभी 70 की 70 सीटों के लिए उम्मीदवारों की लिस्ट अप्रूव कर दी है पॉलिटिकल अफेयर कमेटी ने। इसमें 46 कैंडिडेट्स जो अभी सिटिंग एमएलएस हैं वो हैं, 9 पहले से खाली सीट्स थीं उस पे नए कैंडिडेट्स हैं और 15 सिटिंग कैंडिडेट्स सिटिंग एमएलएस की रिप्लेस किया गया है। इसमें एक अच्छी बात यह है कि पिछली बार आम आदमी पार्टी से 6 महिलाओं को टिकट दिया गया था 2015 में, इस बार 8 महिलाओं को टिकट दिया गया है।
On to some other news now. Jewelers can sell only hallmarked gold jewelry and artifacts made of 14, 18 and 22 carat gold from 15th of January 2021. Now, briefing media in New Delhi on Tuesday, Food and Consumer Affairs Minister Ram Vilas Paswan said that the government will issue a notification today regarding mandatory hallmarking. He said that the violation of this will attract penalty and imprisonment of 1 year. Paswan said that the new system will weed out anomalies and corruption in the system of manufacturing of jewelry, and hallmarking will protect the interests of the consumers. He also said that there are 892 assaying and hallmarking centers that are operational in 234 districts of the country, and that focus will be to open more such centers in the country in the next 1 year. News from Jammu and Kashmir, where 6 soldiers and as many 6 civilians were killed in 4 avalanches in Jammu and Kashmir since Monday night. An avalanche hit an army post in Machil sector along the line of control on Tuesday, trapping 5 soldiers. A rescue operation was launched, but none of the soldiers could be saved. Another avalanche struck a village in Ganderbal district on Monday night, in which 5 civilians were killed. And another civilian died in Gurez sector of Bandipora district, and in the 4th incident, a 29-year-old BSF Jawan was killed and 6 others were rescued after an avalanche hit their post along the line of control in Kashmir's Nogam sector on Monday evening. Meanwhile, 3 people were killed in landslides while an elderly person was buried alive in an avalanche after recent snowfall and showers in parts of Himachal Pradesh on Tuesday. And Prime Minister Modi has praised Indian Army's relief and rescue operations in Jammu and Kashmir, reacting to Indian Army's carrying an expecting mother on a stretcher through heavy snow. Prime Minister Modi tweeted that our army is known for its valor and professionalism. It is also respected for its humanitarian spirit. Whenever people have needed help, our army has risen to the occasion and done everything possible. Proud of our army, he said. And in more news from Jammu and Kashmir, broadband internet facilities have been partially restored in Kashmir Valley and 2G mobile connectivity in 5 districts of Jammu region. The Jammu and Kashmir administration on Tuesday decided to restore broadband services in all government offices, institutions offering essential services like hospitals and banks and tourism-linked establishments. Social networking sites, however, will remain under complete restriction. Remember, Jammu and Kashmir has been without internet since August after the special status granted to it was removed under Article 370 of the Constitution, and it was bifurcated into 2 union territories. While in Jammu division, broadband internet was restored last year, the Kashmir Valley remained without internet. And on 10th of January this year, the Supreme Court had ordered the restoration of internet for all essential services in Jammu and Kashmir. Meanwhile, the mercury took a dip across North India on Tuesday, and rainfalls also lashed many areas in the region, with the Met Department predicting more downpour in the next 2 days due to fresh western disturbance. Now, there was dense fog in isolated areas of Punjab, northwest Rajasthan, Haryana, Chandigarh, Delhi and eastern Uttar Pradesh in the morning, leading to reduced visibility. The national capital witnessed a drop in the maximum temperature on Tuesday due to cold winds blowing in from the hills. The city recorded a low of 10.5 degrees Celsius, 3 notches below normal, and a maximum of 17.7 degrees Celsius, which is 2 degrees below normal. It is expected to be a partly cloudy day today as well, with maximum and minimum temperatures to hover around 18 and 7 degrees Celsius respectively, and intense rain is likely on Thursday. And in Himachal Pradesh, tourist hotspots Kufri, Manali and Dalhousie recorded sub-zero temperatures, while Kelong was coldest at -5 degrees Celsius. The minimum temperature in Shimla was 1.3 degrees Celsius. There was light to moderate rains in many areas, including Manali, Dharamshala, Dalhousie, Shimla and Kangra. And in Kashmir, sub-zero temperatures are persisting, leading to formation of a thick layer of ice on the roads, and that has thrown life out of gear. Flight operations have been disrupted at the Srinagar airport due to slippery conditions on the runway. Dense fog across Jammu region have also hit flight operation to and from the Jammu airport. And the Jammu-Srinagar National Highway also remained closed for the second consecutive day due to landslides and snowfall, leaving over 3,000 vehicles there stranded. And the death toll in massive avalanches and snow-related incidents in Pakistan has touched 93, according to the Pak authorities. At least 84 houses and 17 shops have been fully destroyed, while 94 houses and mosques were partially damaged. The rain-related incidents have also led to closure of major roads and highways in that country. Officials say that the death toll could go further up, as some areas are still inaccessible due to heavy snowfall, adding that there is a forecast of another spell of snowfall on Friday as well. And now our special segment on environment and climate change. A recent study shows that the water level in the Ganga-Brahmaputra-Meghna Delta could reach 85 to 140 centimeters by 2100 due to climate change. The Ganga-Brahmaputra-Meghna Delta covers two-thirds of Bangladesh and a part of West Bengal. Sundarbans, the world's largest mangrove forest, is a key area in the region. It is the largest and most densely populated deltas in the world. It is also one of the most vulnerable to climate-driven sea level rise. Moreover, monsoon flooding presents a major challenge for the climate change adaptation of its 200 million inhabitants. Between 1968 and 2012, the water level in the delta increased faster by 3 millimeters per year on an average, which is more than the global mean sea level. And the year 2005 onwards, the water level rises faster towards the west of the delta. The study can help improve monitoring water level in the region, which is home to 200 million people. It can also lead to future impact studies and possible adaptation plans in the wake of rising impacts of climate change. And on to some sports news now. Rohit Sharma, who top scored in the one-day international format in 2019, was adjudged as ODI Cricketer of the Year by the International Cricket Council today. Rohit Sharma scored a total of 7 centuries last year, out of which 5 came in the World Cup 2019. And captain Virat Kohli bagged the Spirit of Cricket award for his gesture to the crowd against a league stage fixture against Australia in the marquee tournament. In the match against Australia, Virat Kohli gestured towards the crowd to cheer for former Australian captain Steve Smith. And Deepak Chahar got the T20 International Performer of the Year award for his magical figures of 6 for 7 against Bangladesh, including a hat-trick. And Australia's Marnus Labuschagne, who had a dream season in Test cricket, was named as Men's Emerging Cricketer of the Year. And England's Ben Stokes, who played a key role in England's World Cup 2019 triumph, won the Sir Garfield Sobers Trophy for the World Player of the Year. And Pat Cummins, with 59 wickets in Test cricket season last year, was named as Test Cricketer of the Year by the ICC. And with that, we wrap up this edition of Midday News. Thanks for watching.